Good evening to you, dear viewers. Thanks for joining us in this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinoxe television, where we are broadcasting live from Douala, the nation's economic capital. Innocent as in our major stories. Courts in the southwest region of Cameroon have remained closed ever since the Anglophone crisis escalated. Court registrars in the region say they have been finding it difficult to work, and that's because of insecurity. Their lives are threatened. Also, we'll be taking you to Lokngana, a locality in the Camp Division of the Littoral region, where the local population say the sources of livelihoods, notably farming and fishing, are about to be deprived them by some government authorities. According to them, they depend on these hectares of land, notably 68,000 hectares piece of land to farm and also do fishing. We'll be telling you why this hectare of land is about to be snatched from them by administrators. Those are major stories. Good evening once more. You welcome to the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinoxe television. We begin in the southwest region of Cameroon, where court registrars in the region say several courtrooms in the region have remained closed as a result of the Anglophone crisis, making work impossible for them. Among other challenges, the judicial actors are facing as insecurity. They also complain that their lives are threatened. Their worries were raised in the course of their annual general assembly in Kumba. We have more with Fomi Armstrong Sana.
The court registrars say they are among the endangered professionals operating in the armed conflict-hit Anglophone regions of Cameroon.
We work with a lot of fear because be one of those away to be targeted, but we still brave all the odds to make sure we do our work properly.
This has further been complicated by courtrooms which have remained closed in some areas of the region.
It has been very difficult because there are some jurisdictions in the southwest where colleagues are finding it very difficult to work on a daily basis. The colleagues are confronted with very serious problems like that of Muyoka and Menji, which is a very specific situation, and it has not been easy for the other colleagues.
Contextual problems which have added to the traditional challenges of the profession to make work extremely difficult for court registrars in the region.
On a daily basis, the first people that the litigants encounter at the court registrars. So we are really happy to have this General Assembly because it's going again to rekindle that deontology in us and making us to be apt to know that we are serving the public and we are supposed to do that thing.
These challenges and ways to better their performance were discussed at the annual General Assembly of the Southwest Regional Court Registrars in Kumba de Meme Division. Present at the annual General Assembly, the President of the Meme High Court, the State Council and other key stakeholders challenged these court registrars to exploit their very important role in the judicial process to bring back normalcy in the crisis-hit region.
For several years, the stretch of roads linking Bafang in the west region and Konjok in the Littoral region remains a veritable nightmare for road users. The road, according to locals, becomes impassable during the rainy season. It has therefore discouraged the transportation of commodities, as Ese Lucy Liengo reports.
This is the ordeal of road users flying the 53.20-kilometer stretch linking Bafang in the west region, Konjok in the littoral region.
Bon, nous sommes là, nous on souffre tout le temps. Il n'y a pas de goudron. Vraiment, tout ce que nous on veut, c'est d'abord le goudron.
Worse to it, during the rainy season, cars get stuck in the thick and slippery mud. Sometimes, road users have to measure their muscles to push the cars.
C'est pas vraiment facile, hein? Car pour rouler vraiment sur cette route, il faut avoir vraiment du muscle, mais il faut avoir vraiment de la force, de l'énergie.
Most travelers prefer boarding bikes, but the cost of transport remains exorbitant, ranging from 6,000 to 10,000 francs.
Now, the local population of Lokangana clan in the Camp Division of the Littoral region say they are about to lose their land of about 68.385 hectares to the governments. The people say they depend on the lands for hunting, farming, and forestry resources for their livelihoods. They place on the government's authorities to recommend or to reconsider their decision. Malak Glory has more.
A landscape that stretches further than the eye can see, with beautiful mud thatched houses serving as home for the population of Loknanga, a locality in the Camp Division Littoral region. The people here live mainly from hunting and agriculture, but then no one can suspect the threat spying over the village. The forest on which they depend on for livelihood is now classified under the private domain of the state and placed in a forest management unit. And the project led to the establishment of a land title in the name of the state. This in collaboration with some elites and traditional authorities without the consent of the local inhabitants. They've never come to us. We are fighting for the release of our land.
Le chef de camp et le représentant.
We can't accept that our lands be taken from us.
Pas accepter qu'on prenne nos terres.
However, the classification of forests can only take place after compensating the people who carry out investment on the land before the start of the administrative procedure. According to Article 26 of Law Number 94/01 of January 20, 1994, laying down the forest, wildlife and fisheries rules. Worst still, the population may no longer have access to these forests because paragraph 2 of same article states that access to state forests is either regulated or simply prohibited.
Je suis en ville, mais je viens travailler chaque année.
We cannot expect that our lands be taken away from us. I live in town, but I come here for business. And as a businesswoman, I depend on this village to earn a living. So it won't be fair to sell the lands of these locals, their only source of livelihood. They can't give us the means to survive in this village, and they expect us to rebuy our own land.
Dieu nous a donné, qui nous laisse tels que nous sommes.
The Loknanga clan, when we don't even have the money. Management unit, a land of about 68,385 hectares spread over the Nkam and the Maritime Senegal Division. The Banens are about to lose their lands. While several communities are against this initiative, a bridge is already under construction, certainly to facilitate the wood exploitation.
And now, we earlier told you, notably last week, about the reports published by Amnesty International accusing state forces as well as armed separatists in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon for committing gross abuses, and notably burning of houses, kidnapping, demand for ransom, as well as raping women. Also, Amnesty International in their report says they spoke with different sources and have written to the government of Cameroon to admit or reject whether the facts are true or false. But since then, they have not received any letter or reply from the government of Cameroon. They, however, advanced some recommendations. And also another actuality that we noted was the presentation of former Prime Minister of the Republic of Cameroon, Philemon Yang, in Yaoundé by the Minister of External Relations, Le Jeune Belambela, as a candidate for the 79th United Nations General Assembly that will be taking place in the days ahead. And according to the Minister of External Relations, Jean Pelambela, he is the favorite candidate for that position. And that's what we'll be discussing on today's edition of the Talking Points. Join our guest, Jos Inejifi. Good evening once more. You're welcome to Talking Point. Today we're having as guest Duwum Emmanuel. He is a political analyst. Good evening to you, Duwum Emmanuel. You're welcome to the program. First, let's start by understanding your impression with regards to the report recently published by Amnesty International, the human rights organization, on the atrocities ongoing in the two English-speaking regions of the country, talking about the northwest and the southwest regions, by the belligerents of the armed conflict.
Good evening, Innocent. As a good evening to all the viewers of Equinoxe TV, especially the viewers of Talking Point. It's always a pleasure to be on your platform. Well, if we say it's an exaggeration, then we are not very honest to ourselves. I must be very sincere with you. Of late, we have come to the realization of the fact that the two belligerents are not actually ready to end the war. I'll be talking today like somebody who is just coming back from Bamenda with practical examples. And I want to start from the side of the non-state forces, those they call the Ambas. You see, it is very regrettable. When this thing started, many people bought over the ideology, thinking that they had met liberators. But it's very sad tonight to tell you that when liberators turn to a different thing, we have no good story to tell. If I tell you the atrocities that our boys or the boys are committing on the ground today, you will bear with me that the report from the Amnesty International is very fair and balanced. For the first time in this very platform, I have used to castigate Amnesty International. But I want to tell you that the work that Amnesty International has done this time with what we have compiled from the field gives us an idea that they are being fair and balanced. Let me just take, for example, the practical case of Boyo, where I come from. I'm telling you that these boys have turned completely against the population. They beat our mothers. They have even driven our mothers out of their home. Some of them cannot go back to their various homes. They rape. These are facts here on the ground. They rape. They torture people. They extort money. Which, of course, from the beginning, everybody knew or thought that the feeling of the marginalization in the Anglophones was something that every right-thinking person was supposed to rise up and fight for. Unfortunately, these boys came in with a different agenda. And I want to think that the people who gave these boys the room to come in with a different agenda is the failed government in Yaoundé that has refused, honestly, to fight the war. It will also shock you again that as the government has remained very lackadaisical in their approach to looking for a lasting solution to the Anglophone problem, which is different from the Ambazonian problem that we are facing today. Because we have two problems today, the Ambazonian problem and the Anglophone problem. And I will insist that the government's approach in solving the Anglophone problem is not up to 1/10 gone. So the Anglophone problem, the marginalization, is still there, live. Yet, they created a room for the Ambazonian people criminals, ex-convicts, those who are in prisons to come out and torture our mothers, rape them, take money from them. Now they come up with another propaganda telling you that these boys are in the DDR center, and they even go as long as giving them a name called Repentant Amber Boys.
Well, but they decided to heed to the president's call to drop down their arms and come out of the bushes. That's what they did, and they've decided to join the DDR. Is that not sufficient for them to be called repentant separatist fighters?
Still a repentant Amber. You only change from one camp of fighting to another camp, which makes it very more dangerous for the country and more dangerous for the citizens, because the more as they are leading the military to their camps, we are not very sure that at the moment of the operation they limit themselves into showing only the camps. We have heard of situations where innocent citizens who have nothing to do with the fighting have been killed by the state forces on grounds that they were led by ex-combatants. May I use this channel tonight, which is watched well over, to tell the government of Cameroon to rethink on a different approach, because this approach of saying that drop your arms and go to the DDR is failing, and to think again that some of them have become celebrities on Facebooks, making lives, gaining views and winning money because they claim that they dropped their guns. People who have killed, have raped our mothers, our girls, our sisters, means that the government is not yet ready to solve this problem. Because if I want to take the case of somebody like Clovis Nazari and some senior terrorists who are in US, who are today making lives that they have repented, whereas the Mancho BBCs and the rest are still in prison, still in the context of the Anglophone problem, I want to think that there is social injustice in this domain. And I have always said, and I repeat, the cost of solving Anglophone crisis is less costly than all the failed missions that the government has sponsored abroad, than all the missions that are sponsored to Northwest and Southwest. It lies in one word: sincerity. I want to think that those families whose members are in Konenge, who are very aggrieved, if such people are released today, it will open a window for an open mind for the Anglophone community to know that they are back in communion with their family members who innocently or unjustly were sent to Konenge. And that will be a way forward for solving the Anglophone crisis. Solving the Anglophone crisis, after all, I, in the human manner, I've never been for the fact that a GDR center be set up. I am not an expert per se in the domain of conflict resolution, but I know for sure that it all begins by ceasefire. Can the government go back to these basics that the population has been asking and do the rightful thing? Only then we shall know and evaluate the genuinity of the government in solving this crisis created by the government itself.
Let's concentrate on talking on the Amnesty International's reports and the notes in the reports that have written letters to the government to actually clarify or say whether the statistics or the facts presented by those they contacted, notably victims, are true, but the government has been silent. What explains this?
If you cannot sweep your house, you give the room and the broom to the neighbor to come in and do the sweeping for you. Because for 7 years counting, Mr. Bia has not put food in Northwest and Southwest. He's in Yaoundé. He sends people. They go and they bring back fake reports. So, talking about the silence of the government coming out to debunk it, the government is aware. The government is aware. I want to tell you that the government of Cameroon is aware that they are a failure. They are aware that this thing is persisting because they have lacked strategy. And I will insist, the problem of the Anglophones remains unsolved. What the government is struggling to solve now is an amber problem that they gave room to. Like I've always said, the bed on which the intercourse to give birth to amber took place was in Yaoundé, in Etudi. It is only from there. If they can block the Anglophone problem, the amber problem, give us the citizens of Cameroon who assume the citizenship of this nation, we can have a way forward. But with amber, we distance ourselves because the atrocities have revealed to us another side of this problem, which does not relate to the problem that originally existed. When liberators become predators, we no longer call such criminals, such hoodlums, liberators. We call them, they are criminals, they are thieves. I'm talking about a situation where what explains the fact that you are fighting to liberate me at the same time you come and ask me to sit. I was asked at Bangor on the road to my village to sit on the ground because my ID card bears teacher. And that's exactly the same thing that the gendarme did to me 2 years ago at Bello, asking me to pay 2,000 pounds to retrieve my ID card because on it was bearing teacher. And they say we were at the center of the problems in Cameroon today. You see that the both sides. Amber is fighting to liberate the people, but at the same time they are predators. Amber at the same time accused the military of the excesses, whereas they have not shown any different approach to the population. So I'm telling you that these boys have been vomited by the population. Yes, we have a genuine problem that is even above Mr. Biya. Mr. Biya cannot solve the Anglophone problem because he is part of the people who created it to a great extent. But then, these hoodlums are not a solution. I am telling you.
Well, Zoom, Emmanuel, what baffles many is that human rights organizations, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, whenever they publish reports, a situation report, they always advance some recommendations. But these recommendations seem not to be exploited by the governments of Cameroon, maybe when they lack some. Or do you think they have the means to actually put an end to what is happening on the ground?
Please, did you expect the government to come out and tell them that no, they are true? When the Ngabu incident happened, what did the government say? I want to think that this is even a great platform because Equinoxe was indexed for that, for parading false news. Later on, I remember your old editor-in-chief, Cedric Nufele, he was indexed for that. Sechale Oto as well. And it came out clear that the massacre in Gabu was carried out by the government forces. Now, if it was only on the side of the Amber, the government can be very quick to say it clear that Amber did it. But we know of villages like Kwakwa that were burned down by the military. These are facts that are verifiable. I want to add again what happened in Bello 2 weeks ago. A man whose name was given to the military as an amber, somebody who left Southwest on grounds of ill health, went home for his treatment. The military visited him, they ate together, they cooked. Later on, the military came and took out his life on grounds that he was an amber sponsor or coordinator. But the good thing about it is that later on, they rallied the population of this area in the Quadra compound to apologize that the name was given to them wrongly, and so they mistook someone else for someone else, which of course apology is good, but the question is, will that apology resurrect this man who was the breadwinner of his family? Will this apology and that is where I come back to the point that there is no amber fighter who is repentant. This one is on a personal observation that some of them who drop the guns and run out of town and just go somewhere, start up something for new, seem to be more repentant than those who drop, go to the military site that are leading the military from one camp to another. Like you saw the fool, the yam, the idiot, who calls himself Shina Rambo. Now, he is ready to go showing. We are not against people dropping arms, but we want to think that the communication strategy of those dropping arms with the government is a failed one. We want them to drop guns, but please, we don't want to see your faces. You have to go solo when you drop your gun. When you go to the DDR, remember, you are being fed. I'm talking here. This is my impo on me that I pay. It goes to feed criminals who have killed, who have extorted money, and they are paid 3 times a day. They even organize friendly football matches, which means that the approach has failed. When you drop your gun, you go solo, you go quiet. No Facebook lives, no views on Facebook. Don't stop calling people names or whatsoever. So I want to think that the government must rethink on that approach because it has failed.
Well, we've noted the government reacting in some cases, of course, saying or refusing some reports being published which are not factual. And they say they needed to do thorough research to actually come out with the truth. What can you say about this?
Preaching since 2017 when I joined the media, and I've often said it will be more honorable for a leader, anyway he's a hate, because Cameroon has a problem between leader and hate. It will be more honorable for a hate to leave power, to lose power and protect lives, than to protect power and lose life. Have they been listening? Are we not aware in this very triangle called Cameroon, green, red, yellow, that those who create more problems in Cameroon are those who are promoted? Are we not equally aware that those who brought Anglophone crisis, transformed it to amber, have today been named ministers? And there are even celebrities in this very country. So how do you expect that somebody who does not listen to his citizens should listen to Amnesty International? I'm telling you that the first constitution of every country is its citizens. And if you fail to listen to the citizens, you have failed to read and listen to your constitution. Then, this government is the only government in the world that does not take criticism from its own citizens. Good governance has it that when you take criticism, even from your opponent, you silently implement. What have you seen in Cameroon? Have you seen any opponent in Cameroon that has preached positive for embezzlement, corruption, bribery? No. Everybody has been against. But ask yourself a question. What has happened that because almost everybody is against, that is, it's breeding a fertile soil for the regime? They steal like rats every day. I say embezzlement is their trademark. Then you are asking yourself, should Amnesty International talk to this government and this government listen? It's a fallacy. It's a fallacy.
Well, Drew Emmanuel, let's talk something else now about the former Prime Minister of the Republic of Cameroon, Philemon Yang, who will be vying for the post of president, the 79th president of the United Nations General Assembly. And his candidacy was presented in Yaoundé by the Minister of External Relations, Le Jeune Pelambela, who noted firmly that he is the right choice for this position, and that Cameroon, Africa stand to benefit a lot if he becomes the president.
Well, it will be some sort of intellectual dishonesty to say that the government never reacts. Of course, we have seen how in Southwest they drove out reporters sans frontières, reporters without borders, which means that the government is actually listening at a point where they feel that they should react. I have said we are governed by silence. At one point, when the silence leaves them a bit, they come out and react. When the silence comes back, they go to their shells. That is Cameroon we are talking about. But one thing for sure is that the regime will pass. Cameroon will remain.
Okay, you certainly come in there to clarify us on the fact that the government listens to reports published and asks also to report published by human rights organizations. But I want us to really talk more. Let's bounce on Philemon Yang, former Prime Minister of the Republic of Cameroon, presenting himself as the 97th candidate for the post of President of the United General Assembly. His candidacy presented in Yaoundé by Le Jeune Belambela, Minister of External Relations. How did you welcome that?
Well, some people have said Cameroon is a continent on its own. Look, we need to stop joking in this country and start doing things serious. When I read especially the utterances of His Excellency Le Jeune Belambela, I laughed until I almost fell down alone. Let's put things into perspective. Anglophone crisis started when Philemon Yang was in office as the Prime Minister. Let's ask ourselves, apart from unfruitful trips to Northwest, notably the Gogomo-led committee that was under the auspices of the Prime Minister on the high instructions of the head of state. What else did he actually do as a solution? It even escalated the more because he was there. People would have looked at his eloquence in bilingualism, speaking French, speaking English, and I want to tell you tonight, being bilingual is not equated to intelligence. I don't know how people at the diplomatic circle will look at it, but I know for sure at the 79th bit that somebody who failed woefully in solving a domestic affair will be given the task in solving global affairs. Are you not joking? We are creating more jokers in Cameroon, and we want to extend our jokes to international scene. It is an aberration. I say this is a joke of the highest order I've come across. Somebody who cannot solve an internal problem back in his home, you are carrying his candidacy to the UN, except otherwise you are talking about a different UN. If it is United Nations Organization General Assembly head.
Emmanuel, aren't you talking of the contrary, because we know Philemon Yang to be a loyal person to the President of the Republic. We know him to be calm, quiet, and a man of wisdom, as painted by the Minister of External Relations, Le Jeune Belambela.
Looking at Africans per se on the international scene, they end at the level of memorized intelligence. The practical intelligence has not been seen. Can you tell me actually what you felt? I don't know how old you were when Kofi Annan was the Secretary General of the United Nations Organization. People will tell you that they will concentrate on Cameroon and say he brokered the peace deal in the Bakassi Peninsula, the Operation Green Tree Accord, or whatsoever. Apart from that, on the global picture, tell me his influence in the Western world. Tell me his influence in Asia. Tell me his influence in the Arab world as a Secretary General. And then I will start believing that if Philemon Yang goes in, it will be a turning point, and then creating a magic one for an Africa to be recognized and to offer what he can offer. Because as of now, I tell you in all sincerity, the jokers in Cameroon who are thinking that he can go in. Anyway, I wish him well, because I don't know how the diplomatic community looks at it, but I know that they know that Cameroonians, in terms of governance, are jokers. They are jokers. One of the late Reverend men of God, may his soul continue to rest in peace, Reverend Father Peter Mokong, taught us that charity begins at home, but it never ends at home. If he could not offer a route, look at the kind of schools that are in Oku. It is true that some would say Philemon Yang was one of the prime ministers that did not want corruption. They wanted to deter corruption. But if you also go into his private file, you will discover that he was not as transparent as some people say it. Let me limit it there. We want to think that the energy we put out is to shape Cameroon. For those who think that we always see it black, challenge us by making it white, and then we will recognize the white.
Of course, every opinion aims at shaping the country, just like you said it there. Thank you so very much to you, Emmanuel, for being part of this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast and accepting the invitation to be part of Talking Points. I want to thank you so much. And to you viewers, thank you so much for joining us in this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinoxe Television. We enjoying you to stay posted to programs on Equinoxe Television. But we're hoping to see you tomorrow, God willing.